Mr. Brock.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, witnesses. Thank you for your attendance. I am primarily going to start with you, Ms. Thomas. I'm going to be delivering a series of rapid-fire questions at you. I'll be asking whether you agree with the statement or not. It would elicit a yes or a no. I'm not seeking an explanation. You'd agree with me that this country is bound by the rule of law?
Yes.
That every Canadian, including the Prime Minister, his cabinet, senior public servants, and most importantly, the Department of Justice is also bound by the rule of law?
Yes.
And no one, including the Prime Minister, is above that law, correct?
Correct.
Now, I'm going to be delivering a series of statements from former Cabinet Minister Perrin Beatty, the chief architect of the Emergencies Act, that this committee should press for any information to help Canadians understand the rationale for invocation and test against both the facts and the deliberately high threshold that is required. Do you believe that?
Yes.
That the Emergencies Act is a blunt instrument because it is used where contingencies can't be managed effectively in any other way. Agree?
The Emergency Act is a charter compliant.
Do you agree?
It's more complex than a yes/no
Thank
answer.
you. That if invoking the Act made law enforcement easier, the issue is whether the deliberately high threshold was met, not whether the powers given were useful, or in other words, whether the powers they already had could have resolved the problem. Do you agree with that?
That's how it was used.
That in relation to freezing bank accounts of people associated with the protests, new government powers should be conferred in a time of calm, not by regulation drawn up in a crisis. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
That police were called upon to deal with a breakdown in our political system. Agree?
No.
That if government were to avoid much more serious emergencies in the future, they must restore a civility to our politics that allows us once again to disagree strongly on issues without seeing one another as enemies. Agree?
I'm not a politician.
Do you agree?
I would agree, but I'm not a politician.
Thank you. That our body politic is wounded at the present time. We need to heal those wounds. We need to do it by treating each other as Canadians with respect. We need to do it in such a way that sets aside partisan differences and puts the national interest first. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes.
That the obligation of Parliament at this point is to do everything it can to try and heal the divisions that have been created. Agree?
I'm not a parliamentarian.
Would you agree with me that one of the most important roles of a Prime Minister is to unite Canadians and not divide them by engaging in name-calling?
The
Do you
Prime
agree?
Minister should protect Canadians.
Do you agree?
Protect Canadians.
Do you agree that the Prime Minister should not be name-calling?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay. You are aware at the inquiry the Prime Minister stated that he did not call people who are unvaccinated names. You aware of that statement?
Yes, I heard that statement.
Would you agree with me that the Prime Minister stated on Quebec television in September 2021 that there are people who are fiercely opposed to vaccination, who do not believe in science, who are misogynistic, often are racist, that there are not many of them, but they take up a lot of space? As a leader, as a country, do we tolerate these people, or do we say, come on? He repeated those same talking points during the unnecessary 2021 federal election. Do you agree that he made those statements?
I did not personally hear those statements, with apologies.
Would you agree with me that either the Prime Minister has a problem, a significant problem with his memory, or he deliberately and intentionally misled the inquiry?
Madam Chair, I don't think that this is fair questioning. Your time is up.
She can answer the question. It's not up to her, this witness,
Point of
to
order,
question the
Madam
validity
Chair.
and the
we
relevancy.
do not need commentary on the witness's
Do I
testimony.
still-
The witness's testimony
Can I
stands.
just give her an opportunity to answer?
Thank you.
I'm not sure what the question was.
I
Madam
can
Chair.
repeat the question, Madam Chair. She asked to repeat the question, and I, with the Chair's permission, I would like to repeat the question, Mr. Nakvi. Would you agree with me that either the Prime Minister has a significant problem with his memory, or that he
Madam Chair, I
deliberately
didn't hear a
and
ruling on
intentionally
whether he should
misled?
repeat the question. So can you make a ruling, please, Madam Chair?
I did actually. I told him to go ahead.
And can I repeat the question without being interrupted by the Liberal minister?
Would you kindly proceed so that we can
I will
carry on?
proceed without interruption. Thank you, Chair. Would you agree with me that either the Prime Minister has a significant problem with his memory, or he deliberately and intentionally misled the Rouleau inquiry?
I believe that's a pejorative question. I won't answer it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. You would agree that when it comes to determining whether the government was really acting as a last resort because no other law would do, it's the Prime Minister's own explanation that matters?
No, it's broader than that.
Would you agree that the government's own legal interpretation of those things that can only be evaluated according to the Prime Minister's testimony because all the legal opinions have not been released?
You'll have to ask that again. I'm sorry.
Justice Rouleau, in his opening remarks at the inquiry, stated that uncovering the truth is the most important goal. When difficult events occur that impact the lives of Canadians, the public has a right to know what happened. Recall that?
I do.
The Prime Minister promised Canadians when first elected in 2015 that they would see the most open and transparent government ever seen. Yet this inquiry has seen hundreds upon hundreds of redacted pages from the government with little explanation as to the legal basis for such exclusion. Would you agree that the actions of the Prime Minister and Cabinet Ministers who have testified at the inquiry have frustrated numerous lawyers in their ability to drill down to the truth as to the legal basis for the invocation of the Act?
I think that the Prime Minister and ministers being
Do you
on
agree
the
or not?
stand was extraordinarily transparent.
Do you agree?
I do
Madam
not
Chair, the
agree.
witness should
Thank
be
you.
allowed to answer the question.
Inquiry lawyer Gordon Campbell stated, "We have, from the beginning of this proceeding through till now, attempted to find a way to lift the veil that has made such a black box of what has turned out to be a central issue before the hearing. We just regret that it ends up being an absence of transparency on the part of the government." Do you recall that statement?
Not specifically, no.
Do you agree that Justice Minister Lametti testified at the inquiry that the government didn't use the legal definition within the Emergencies Act, but rather used their own reasons, but could not release it due to solicitor and client privilege? You're aware of that?
I did not see all of Minister Lametti's testimony.
You're aware that no government official, all the ministers and the Prime Minister, are talking about solicitor and client privilege as a basis for not releasing those legal opinions. You're certainly aware of that.
Solicitor-client
Thank you.
privilege.
Justice Rouleau pressed Minister Lametti on this issue, asking how he would understand and pass judgment on the legal basis for invoking the Emergencies Act, which is a central issue in the Commission, when the government was not forthcoming on the legal rationale. He then said, quote, "I guess the answer is we just assume they acted in good faith in application of whatever they were told." Last question. Do you agree with me that the government response of just trust us, we acted in good faith when invoking the Emergencies Act is the complete opposite of being open and transparent with Justice Rouleau, but most importantly with Canadians? Do you agree with that statement or not?
Solicitor-client privilege is a long-standing protocol in
Do
this
you agree with
country.
that statement, ma'am?
Solicitor-client
Do
privilege.
you agree, yes or no?
I'm not answering that.
Thank you.